Hi, thanks for watching. Today I wanted to talk about Bagua and the Chinese Sabre. Many martial arts start with their frame coming from a particular weapon. Certainly with Tai Chi, Bagua, and Xingyi, this is the case. And that, first of all, doesn't mean that as someone learning the style, you start with that weapon. And it also doesn't mean that with Bagua, the only weapon within the system is the saber. But what it does mean is that the way that the body moves, the internal frame of that martial tradition comes from the characteristics of that weapon. And so for Bagua, the characteristics of it come from the saber. The Chinese saber, the main thing about it, a couple things, but one thing is that it's an edged weapon. And so its primary use is with slicing. It does have a point, so you can use it for a pierce, but as you can see, it's not a symmetrical point. And so compared to a sword, it's not as effective. Where it's most effective is with the slicing action, right? So as an edged weapon, there is this horizontal or this continuous line, horizontal, vertical, on an angle, but this slicing action, which is the key motion of the saber. The other aspect of it is that it's flat on one side. It has a spine. This allows the weapon to be a heavier weapon. And it also means then that when you're doing those lines, you can actually bring the spine of the saber and have it contact the body. The reason this is relevant for that slicing line is that if you're going to be doing a slice, you could start from here and come across to here, but that would be the distance of that slice. Whereas because this has a spine, you can wrap it around the body and suddenly the start of that line starts from behind you and comes all the way through. So the length and the speed of that line, that slicing action, gets increased. And so, of course, over time, this has become very characteristic of a lot of Chinese saber techniques. It's something where you're coming through. You can combine it with something like come through with a block, continue with a slice, wrap through, and slice again. And so these two characteristics you start to see the development of this circular line. So also with that, you start getting into different kinds of characteristics with the body movement involved with the saber. And this is where the tie-in to the Bagua happens, where you start getting this rotational motion through the core of the body, because it's the core of the body that drives the line, the slicing action. And then the other characteristic I wanted to talk about is the flag. The flag, I was told, as a remnant, it used to be something that was either much longer or was a rope, and this was used to wrap around the wrist, around the hand, and then firmly attach the saber to the arm. And so that this becomes a single unit. And this idea gets extended through from the arm and its connection to the body. So again, when we start looking at some of the movements within Chinese saber patterns and traditions, again, what drives the saber has everything to do with having the shoulder and arm firmly attached to the body, and this idea of the body being able to do this rotational motion that drives the slicing action. Even with things such as a chop, it is the same idea, coming through, coming through. It's the movement of the body and the connection of the shoulder and the wrist that drives the line that the sword or the saber follows. And so, of course, with Bagua, we see that similar sort of thing in terms of the movements. So the characteristics that we have with the Bagua require those two characteristics, those two qualities. One where there's the turning and the stable spinning of the body, and that the arm and the body stay firmly connected to each other so that we come through. If we were to do Bagua and the things were not connected, so that we come through, it wouldn't be Bagua because the body and the arm techniques are not moving together. We need something where everything is moving from one direction to the next, turning, but firmly connected. And so this is the qualities that we need to understand from the saber and bring it into the Bagua practice. And I should mention that for Bagua, it's famous for the dada, the big saber, where the blade itself is large. It's too big for this room, so I don't have it here. And the purpose of that is already the saber is a heavier weapon compared to the sword because of that spine and the ability to make the weapon out of a thicker piece of material. And then the dada, the big saber, is even thicker again, so it is a heavy weapon. The purpose of that is so that it's large enough that you can't just swing it around with your arm. You need to be able to find the correct line and positioning of the body so that all of the motions become one that are driven by this connection, solid connection from the arm through the shoulder to the core of the body. And so that is one of the key aspects for the dada. So I hope that information is helpful for you. I encourage you to keep learning and keep practicing. Thanks for watching.